I think the big thing is being able to support things like tokenized real world assets, portfolios of loans, fractional ownership, all of the sort of complexities around the real world holding of assets. If we can do that, then I think we can compete with TradFi, and that's like, that's a multi-trillion-dollar market. It's, hundreds of times the current DeFi market.
Right. So I'm going to continue down this rabbit hole. Let's go on because I want to get to the David Schwartz part of this video, but we got so much more to cover before we get there. So always showing you guys the documentation. Aqua, this is that Mr. Pool riddle that you commented on here where remember what that dude just said, okay? He talked about MasterCard having the ability to connect to blockchain transactions and how these new wave of investors, millennials, he specifically mentioned, they're not going to have a bank account.
When you think about it, a lot of these next gens would not be buying houses. So buying real estate and building a portfolio will allow them the opportunity to buy any house they want in the future, rather than buying an initial house and putting all their energy and capital into that house and not being able to expand. So it's financial freedom.
And there's such a better world of investing now that we're going to have access to. And this is a document from Accenture. If you guys don't know who Accenture is, you should, go tap in. I'm not going to, this video breakdown is not on Accenture, but, they pretty much help government organizations and federal organizations with digital transformation, just in a nutshell. So, you should read and pay attention to their documents. Here it says right there on their homepage, the metaverse evolution, then revolution, gradually, then sudden. I don't know, Aqua, if you wanted to touch on that Mr. Pool riddle before we get into what this document says, or whether you want me to read the document first.
No, yeah, you can read the document first. I mean, the Mr. Pool is just like a glimpse of like the post, but I feel like it aligned. Immediately when I seen it, I immediately thought of that Mr. Pool post. So, but yeah, no, read it and then I'll say whatever.
Okay, so it talks about the metaverse and how it will impact people, and it says the 3D evolution of the internet is underway. This is what we call the Internet of Place, adding a sense of space to the digital world and bringing digital elements to our physical lives. It contains a continuum of virtual realms that operate across a spectrum. On one side, there are virtual worlds and locations where people can converse, trade, and socialize. On the other side, an augmented reality layer overlays our physical world, creating a new opportunity for interactions and engagement. Users can access these realms in 2D and in 3D, accessible via devices such as headsets, phones, and computers. Significant advances in real-time rendering of photorealistic environments, true-to-life virtual physics, artificial intelligence, and real-time 3D creation tools such as Unreal Engines or Unity support the creation of these environments. With these technologies, the Internet of Place will expand as new communities form and grow. Additionally, a mirror world is created when virtual places are linked to the real world via digital twins, i.e., digital real estate. This is freaking crazy, yo. At their core, digital twins replace the performance of individuals' physical assets and process it in a virtual environment to help us understand how these objects might behave under a variety of circumstances. We also see the Internet of Ownership developing quickly, a digitally native infrastructure powered by tech such as blockchain, decentralized identities, confidential computing, and more that creates the ability for people to carry out their identity, money, and objects from place to place in a digital world. The driving culture force behind the Internet of Ownership is known as Web3. The user-led movement emphasizes digital ownership and transparency in the products and services that make up the Web3 ecosystem. And then on this last page, it just talks about how the metaverse will, for a fact, integrate into our physical and digital worlds, reshaping how we live and work and how businesses will drive this transformation to the highest standards of safety and security. So, this is just a crazy document to dive into. Shout out to the CYPRX research team. This one was such a good read, but this just goes hand in hand with what's happening. Aqua, go ahead if you had anything on this one.
Man, there's so much to unpack on there. I mean, what you just read is like how I've kind of just imagined it in my mind. The merging of the physical world with this metaverse world, and us, living in like a hybrid reality where it's, reality and the metaverse. And, you know, think about trends and culture and how the trends and culture have changed so much. You know, just look at fashion, for example. You know, baggy pants are back again. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And where is all that going to be? It's going to be in the metaverse, you know what I mean, in the future. And that's where all these new trends and like, what's the cool thing to do? Hey, pay with, you know, this digital asset for this. We may not even call it a digital asset. I'm referring to it as a digital asset. It's probably going to be referred to maybe as a meme coin name. You know what I mean? But like, this is how it becomes big. It's just like the cell phone wave. Like, you know what I mean? When everyone had a cell phone, it was like, you ain't got a cell phone number. And in the future, it's going to be like, you're not in the metaverse. You know what I mean? So like, bro, like, whoo.
Yeah, I think also too what ties into it is that retail investors usually have a short-term horizon perspective when it comes to investing. Most people don't have a 3 to 5 year plan or outlook. And so because this is a slow, steady grind, and in between all of this transformation, we're constantly seeing bullish fundamentals that never have an impact on price because the infrastructure, it's there, it's being built, but the regulation's not there completely yet. It's coming. And so, you know, whenever we hear somebody say institutions are coming, people are like, oh, well, what the heck is the market down $100 billion for today? You know, so they don't comprehend the difference between the trading environment that we're operating in and the utility environment that we're headed into. And so they lose sight of the long-term picture. And a lot of people are going to drop the ball because they just don't understand the cycle that we're currently operating in. And this all plays a very big role in it, is doing this type of research to really truly understand that the systems and the organizations that control at the top of the pyramid scheme are the ones telling you guys that this is happening. It's just people don't know where to find the documents. They have a hard time blocking out the noise and all the bullish moonboy hopium and price predictions and the narrative driven, you know, toxic content on social media. It's time to peel that back and listen to the people that matter in this space. Here's another video breakdown right here. This is a guy, his name is Regulon P. He had former experience at major banks and family offices, and he was, I believe, also the VP for the Asia Pacific region, and the CEO of that organization in Circle in Singapore. So listen to what he says, because this is from just the other day, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And he says pretty much the same thing that the gentleman Edward said from Red Swan, that these future investors won't have a bank account. They're not even going to know what that is. They're all going to be digitally native. So just listen to what he says here.
These, right? Because my favorite saying is banking is fucked, and it pretty much is. And so, so they're looking at the people previously who are saying, oh, you got a shit experience, now we've got a better experience. And I'm looking at Revolut and Wise going, oh my God, that's a shit experience. Imagine what an on-chain bank will look like. And anyone who's got like young kids, you know, a few years old, 2 or 3 years old, imagine in 15 years when they're like 18 years old, when like maybe 20 or 30% of the economy is stable coins. They're going to come into a world where they may never have a normal bank, right? And the normal banks have lots of terrible restrictions, right? They tell you who you can send money to. They tell you who can sign up. They lock your funds. Then you got to call customer service, explain why you sent money to a crypto exchange. There's all this rubbish that comes. And then it depends on where your passport is, where your residency is. Just like infinite amount of bullshit that's been created just because of country-based regulations. But there is a new, better world where you've got this pristine on-chain bank, which doesn't depend on your passport, doesn't depend on your residency, and it will appear in the next 10 years, where you can do all the things you can do with a bank, which include having a cash account, a savings account, the equivalent of a card, which will be done as an on-chain payment with maybe something like a card, but it'll be done on-chain instead of via Visa or MasterCard. And then all the other things like stocks are going to be on-chain, crypto's already on-chain, there'll be lending on-chain, everything, right? And so I would dare say that most people, kids that are 2 to 3 years old now, will come straight into an on-chain bank world, which is probably very hard to imagine for us. But I can almost guarantee that half of them will and won't have, and they'll be paid natively in stablecoins, and they'll never really care about what the old world looked like. And guess what? They're also trading and giving money to people all over the world who are operating on an internet native economy, right? Whether they're influencers or whatever that is, they're selling goods.
So much to unpack there, I think, more specifically, because we have kids in that age bracket, bro. Like I got kids in the
100%.
age bracket that he mentioned.
Yeah, likewise, bro. And he's thinking down the line, you know, 15, 20 years from now. And like low key, I was thinking about it, low key, you know, it's kind of already here. I mean, you got an exchange where you can get a Visa card, right? 2 different exchanges, you can get Visa cards. There's a couple, crypto wallets that you can get Visa cards. So, if you know what you're doing and you're, knowledgeable, what he just described is kind of low key right here now. You know what I mean? And acting as a bank account. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy, bro. The stuff that, again, people are not paying attention to. This is another perfect example, man. The freaking BBA, the Blockchain Business Association forum, posted this video just 3 months ago, right? Dude, it only has 12 views, bro. Oh man, and I can almost guarantee you that like at least 8 of those views are probably CYPRX researchers, right? And so this video is of this lady. I don't remember what large organization she stems from specifically, but they're talking specifically about this new era of investors, how millennials are the largest group of investors that the world has ever seen that's coming. And, she's talking about it. Look at the title of the video. It says, Buying and Selling a Property with Crypto, What You Need to Know. This is a full freaking 17 long minute video breakdown from a regulated organization telling you about buying and selling crypto. And this is the type of stuff that we pay attention to in CypherX. And it's got 12 views. People, come on now. Tap in. It's time to tap in. So just let's listen to what this lady says, because she, in a nutshell, says exactly what the gentleman Edward said and what the gentleman that we just listened to said about the future. So this is just more confirmation.
Even though it's a very, very small niche now, but the biggest question I get is why even bother? Okay. Well, there is a new era of investors out there. Millennials are the largest. Many of them who call me don't even have traditional bank accounts. They are engineers, they're coders. Maybe a lot of times they even get paid in crypto. I get, especially when Bitcoin is up, I get more people calling me wanting to lease in crypto. We finally set ourselves up to do that. We have a broker-owned escrow company that can take in the crypto and then pay out in fiat. But in the US, back in 2021, the last bull run, 12% of first-time homebuyers had help from crypto. And it was down in 2022. And I don't have 23 or 24 stats right now, but that's a really big number, especially for the US. And most of them had to cash out. They didn't have a way to actually do this in the escrow during the escrow process. And now we have that capability. We have an escrow company here who has a partnership with BitGo, and they're able to do the conversion during the escrow process, making it a lot more seamless. And by and large, I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but the transaction times are quick and direct. We can do wallet to wallet. We've kind of toyed around with NFTs. There is a small traditional finance crossover. I do have lenders that will at least count the crypto in the portfolio to kind of boost their assets to qualify for a bigger jumbo loan or a bigger loan that they're kind of seeking. And
so long story short, 3 months ago, she openly committed to the world and said that they have the ability for people to buy real estate with crypto, and it's just interesting because just now, it's starting to trend on the internet that's available with this new, the bill that just passed, or the thing that just happened with the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac,
Right.
everybody's starting to post this now. Look at this, 399,000 impressions. But bro, we were telling people about this, and not to toot our own horn, but look at the video that we were sharing in our community from this guy who's telling you that you can invest alongside billionaires. This is from 7 months ago. So we've been on this information in the CyberX community,
1,000%.
Nothing new. This is nothing new. This is how you beat the average retail crowd, because now the average retail crowd is picking up on this when we already got a real estate investor who's very phenomenal at traditional real estate in our community that's going to be starting to host Zoom calls on real world asset tokenization and crypto investing in real estate with our private community. So it's a clutch time to be alive right now. Super clutch time to be alive. All right, so that was a good video breakdown. And so that's going to take us over here. So now to where me and Aqua had a video last week with the private community talking about utilizing XRP with looping strategies in DeFi to buy a property, tokenize it, have physical tenants, and be earning yield from your tokenized property, right? To pay back your loan, that whole thing. If you guys haven't checked that out, I'll repost it. So it's at the top of my X profile. Go check it out. Watch this video. It's about an hour long, super juicy information in there. But that's going to go hand in hand with this document here as we transition into kind of the second portion of today's call, where I want to show you guys, especially if you're XRP holders, we got David Schwartz sitting on stage at Apex talking about how he's excited about DeFi, fractionalized ownership, real world asset tokenization. I want you guys to hear that from the horse's mouth, because something that myself and Mr. Aqua presented to you guys in previous podcasts is that Ripple, in collaboration with the Bank of International Settlements, put out this document in April talking about this whole entire process with this imaginative person named Alice. And when we went and we plugged Alice's journey, which is in the document in collaboration with Ripple and the Bank of International Settlements, you get XRP, XLM, XDC. And then just the other day, so to transition into the second portion of today's call, we were speculating that this had to do with Ripple in previous video breakdowns, but this is crazy. I think that this solidifies our speculation that this had everything to do with them telling us that Ripple's going to be involved in this, because Ripple just posted this June 25th, 2025, introducing permission DEXs on the XRP ledger, unlocking institutional access to DeFi. And one of the names that they utilize to talk about this person's journey in this new tokenized world is Alice, directly on the Ripple. Let me share my screen. Directly on the Ripple website, bro.
So this is from what you're showing right now is from the Ripple website right now. Yep.
Yeah, bro.
And what you shared that day, I forget what weeks ago, was a BIS document simulating having XRP Ripple. Was XLM in it as well, or was it just XRP?
I have all the documents open. I'm going to show people this.
Yeah, okay.
I want to play the video of David Schwartz to set the tone. So we'll come back to this. We'll full circle, but I just want to let everybody know what part 2 of today's video is going to be about, because this is juicy. This is that stuff where we kind of threw in a little bit of speculation and gematria to our institutional research. And I honestly think that I'm going to be honest, like there's no coincidences. But why on earth would they choose that one name out of all the names in the world on their website?
I'll have to stamp that, bro. That is that's not possible. It's definitely not a coincidence.
So to start here, I always like to start with documents, and then we'll get into the video from David Schwartz here that we have from Apex. Okay. So starting with this document, this is a document titled The Great Tokenization Shift 2025 and the Road Ahead from Key Rock and Centrifuge. If you guys don't know about these two organizations, definitely go check them out and do research. Large players in this space. And I said here in this post, tokenization creates a new model for fractional ownership and near instantaneous settlement, enabling new sources of income and liquidity for traditional illiquid assets like real estate. So why this matters? This quote highlights that tokenization, and by extension DeFi, unlocks yield from previously untapped sources like real estate, commodities, and even carbon credits. And didn't you last week, bro, like a video, you pulled up a video of David Schwartz sitting on stage with Sergey from Chainlink talking about this?
100%. If
you don't mind, could you pull that up so we could throw that in here? Do you remember where that was at, where Sergey was like, hold on just a second, let me go find it. Okay, hold on. Yeah, go find it while I finish reading this. I remember because he was like, yeah, wouldn't that be cool to tokenize gold? I think that'd be cool, right? And he's sitting on stage with David Schwartz. I know that what happened. But anyways, this continues to say, DeFi platforms are increasingly being used to provide automated permissionless access to this yield through staking, liquidity provisioning, and real-world asset-backed lending protocols. As institutional adoption grows, retail users who understand DeFi today will be first in line to access this global income stream tomorrow. That is a powerful post. And so in this document, right, just to read some of my highlights, it says right here, that they're working with institutional and DeFi native participants to bridge traditional finance with blockchain technology. This is a clear vision, a financial system that is open, efficient, and accessible to all, no longer constrained by unnecessary intermediaries or outdated infrastructure. And then here it mentions understanding these flows, and the offer that it offers is significant yield opportunities through strategic capital reallocation. And then here it says this interoperability with DeFi represents a paradigm shift in capital markets. Accessing the combination of access, and composability with DeFi protocols creates an unprecedented opportunities for global participants previously excluded from TradFi. Okay, so this is just confirmation that large organizations are telling you guys this stuff in their documents. They're talking about this new world. And so at this event, Aqua, when you get that video pulled up, let me know if you have it. Okay, so this is the event.
I have it, bro. I have it. Hold on. Yeah.
All right, let's play that real quick. So I'll stop sharing screen. This is just the event previous a couple of weeks ago where we were playing this to you guys, where David Schwartz was sitting on stage with Sergey talking about this exact thing. Go ahead, bro.
All right. So yeah, the question was, what are you like? He's on a panel with, side by side with David Schwartz. And the question was, what are you guys most excited about in DeFi? And Sergey his immediate answer was getting yield on things I wasn't able to get yield on before. And this is the part where
So
yeah, we're good.
The DeFi people that figure out how to create yield out of traditionally non-yield bearing assets are going to be super successful people. Like some of the most successful stuff will be that. For that, you kind of do need this composable ecosystem where you can start building stuff around the asset to try and do experiments to see how can I make yield happen out of this traditionally non-yield bearing thing. But I think someone's going to figure that out. And when you start getting yield on things that didn't give you yield, imagine you get yield on your home equity. Imagine you get.
So imagine if you get yield on your home equity. That's where I had that. Hearing him say that was just mind blowing.
Nah, I really liked what he said, bro. About literally word for word what we just said. That the people that invest in these things, the people that pay attention to this stuff, are going to be the ones that survive and have the best returns. Literally, he just said it right on stage. And keep in mind, this is the same gentleman who was sitting next to Brad Garlinghouse in the White House, okay, just this year. So why would you not listen to this dude in a sense, right? I'm not saying to go out there and invest in Chainlink specifically, but he's literally telling you guys that the people that pay attention to these things, they're going to be the best off. And look at what we've been trying to show you guys.
Hey, and it's not like every chain out there or project can say that their head honchos have a picture with Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? There's only a few people that got that picture, and there's only a few people that were at that table. And, they're the chosen ones, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. But, I feel like those pictures speak loudly. Pictures say 1,000 words, they say, right? So.
Yeah, no, 110%. So this is just to go off of that, David Schwartz sitting at Apex. This is reposted by XLR Network from CoinDesk. And so I'm going to play two video clips. It's David Schwartz first being asked by the lady about the future perspective and whatnot. And he specifically says that he's excited about real world asset tokenization, DeFi, and specifically fractional ownership. Because if you guys remember in part one of today's video breakdown, when we were listening to Edward, one of the key vocabularies I told you guys to remember is that term fractional ownership. That's going to play a big role in proving what myself and Aqua were trying to show you guys about Ripple in the BIS document is that term fractional ownership. Okay, so listen to what David says here.
Envision as a developer get together, primarily for people who are building to share, technical insights and talk about strategy for, future development. And then it expanded to include retail XRP holders and people who are just enthusiastic about the space and interested in the technology. And I think the big change this year is that you see representatives of institutions who are looking to bring things like tokenized real world assets onto the blockchain. And I think that's the big thing that's going to catalyze that next wave of adoption, that real mass growth that we're all hoping to see.
Talk to me about the innovation that's happening, and you're the co-creator of the chain, so I want to get into your head a little bit. What are some of the most important innovations that are happening on XRP Ledger?
I think that if we are going to see the sort of mass adoption of the blockchain space and DeFi, broadly speaking, it's going to have to provide the kind of financial services that ordinary people need. You know, collectibles are great, and speculation in very high risk assets is interesting. But you know, if you think about what people need a financial system for, they need things like loans, they need payments, they need sensible investments, you know, retirement funds, all of those kinds of things. And I think the most exciting developments are the ones that are going to build those pieces that we need for the DeFi and blockchain space to really take a bite out of that multi-trillion-dollar TradFi market.
From a technical perspective, what needs to happen for us to get there?
I think the big thing is being able to support things like tokenized real-world assets, portfolios of loans, fractional ownership, all of the sort of complexities around the real-world holding of assets. If we can do that, then I think we can compete with TradFi, and that's like, you know, that's a multi-trillion-dollar market. It's, you know, hundreds of times the current DeFi market.
Okay, so again, lots to unpack, bro. Something that I want to pick your brain about, right? Something that I know that you have brought to everybody's attention is, because I'm not on TikTok, but I know you are, and so you know the XRP community over on TikTok better than I do. But correct me if I'm wrong. Most of their lives, all they're talking about is cross-border remittances and cross-border payments and XRP being utilized for cross-border, da, 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 da. When David Schwartz himself just told you guys at Apex that he believes the next big wave of institutional adoption, he didn't say anything about cross-border payments. He specifically just said that he thinks the next wave of institutional adoption is going to come in the form of real-world asset tokenization, fractional ownership, and DeFi primitives.
Yeah, no, 100%. They're not having those types of conversations over there. They're still having those types of conversations where they're concentrated of the speed of XRP compared to the speed of like Bitcoin type of shit. But they are not into this type of stuff. You know what I mean? And it's, bro, like, we're gonna be able to earn yield like on an Allen Iverson rookie card, which I have a couple of, right? And that being a real world asset, once it's tokenized and I can prove and have that liquidity on chain, it's just like, that's what we should be talking about. Like, what's to come with that? Like, there is so much to be built on the XRPL to support everything that David is just what he just said. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's continue to move down this rabbit hole to knock this one out. So this is that document that myself and Aqua had brought to everybody's attention in previous weeks. Keep in mind now, we played 2 representatives so far mentioning the terminology fractional ownership, okay, which is, that's the vocabulary and synchronicity. It plays a very important role in these breakdowns, because without it, we wouldn't be able to speculate, because there would be no coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. I think that all of these entities are sitting in on these closed door meetings, and that's why they use similar vocabulary and tie it into their documents based off of the getting rid of or eroding their negative karmic energy. They tell us things in advance, so that way when they happen, they don't feel bad about, you know, how the future goes or leaving people behind, because they already told you so. Okay. So this BIS document proves that the BIS is not just studying DeFi, that they're actively building the next financial system with it. And Ripple is right in the middle of it. This BIS document confirms that Ripple is working directly with the Central Bank of Cambodia to issue a wholesale CBDC and tokenize government bonds on the blockchain. This isn't theory. It's real pilots, real institutions, and real transformation. Ripple's role in this is providing the infrastructure to tokenize and settle assets instantly between banks and financial entities. The BIS is laying the foundation for a world where tokenized money, tokenized assets, and DeFi architecture runs the digital economy, and Ripple is the building pipes. And here's this document from April 2025. And this is the part where it goes on to talk about a part of the agenda in collaboration with the Ministry of Information Tech, Ripple and PeerSys. I'm just going to briefly go through this because myself and Aqua have made previous video breakdowns on this. If you guys want to check those out, if you head over to the CYPRX YouTube and you scroll down to some videos, maybe from like a month or 2 ago, look for the thumbnails that say in the title, Alice's Journey. So like, here's one right here. There's another 2 down here. It says Alice Journey. All right, let me see if I can find the other 2. Anyways, I know that there's 3 videos in the thumbnail where it specifically says Alice Journey, and that's where you can go back and you can watch these where we broke this down. Here's another one, Alice Journey right there, and then the other one is right here. Okay. So just go back and check those out if you want a more thorough understanding of what we're talking about. But just to briefly go over this, this document confirms Ripple in collaboration with these other organizations is playing a role in this. And it says, when financial institutions create a wallet on the blockchain, Ripple's technology establishes a trust line with the central bank's creation wallet. This process, verified by network consensus, is reported to all nodes, enabling CBDC transfers to the new wallet. The tokenized version of the Colombian government securities must include blah, 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 right? We went over this in the previous video, okay? And so I just wanted to show you guys in that document from the same month, we got this document here from the BIS, this one, April 2025, okay? This is the same consultative group on innovation in the digital economy. And in this document, and you go down a little bit further, it talks about this lady's journey. Okay. And it says, let's consider Alice's journey. And in the previous video breakdown, we showed how if you go and you type in without the apostrophe and the S, you take that off and you put Alice journey in Gematria, it comes up and it says XRP, XLM, XDC. Okay. Now, I personally don't fixate too much of my attention on the gematria side and the synchronicity and things of that nature on my YouTube channel, but I know other people do. And so Aqua brought that to my attention because in this post, it mentions here that these infrastructures not only benefit Alice, this specific name person, this Alice person, but also enhances operational efficiency and service offerings of banks and loan agents or any other institution. And here it says that Alice is going to be able to use liquidity pools and smart contracts, and she's going to have direct control over her assets and instantaneous transfers, low transaction costs, and enhanced transparency. And then right here, it also mentions that she's going to be able to participate in fractional ownership. Okay. So it says right here, the benefits of tokenization could be significant for all parties involved. For Alice, she is able to make instantaneous, programmable, and less costly transactions, and she can manage her digital assets directly with transparency and immutability. She also benefits from easy access to diverse financial products and services through her app and is able to purchase small fractions of assets. Keep in mind what David Schwartz said, fractional ownership. Keep in mind what the gentleman Edward said, fractional ownership. And now, right, more recently, we saw XRPL Commons. This is not a freaking coincidence. What did they post? What if you followed the white rabbit into Alice's Wonderland, but into the XRP Ledger blockchain? This is from 3 weeks ago, directly from the XRP Ledger Commons LinkedIn profile. Okay. And then this is even freaking crazier, bro, because that was our speculation weeks ago. And now look at what freaking Ripple posted just yesterday, or what was it? Today's the 27th. So they posted this on the 25th, bro, 2 days ago, right? It says, one big unlock for institutional DeFi on the XRPL is the permission DEX, okay? And it says it will allow regulated players to trade on the XRPL's DEX using verified credentials, enabling KYC-gated FX swaps, stablecoin flows, and more. And then all the way down here, just to sum this up, it says this permission DEX will allow DeFi without institutional trade-offs. The tools are live, the demand is here, and the moment is now. And when you click on this link, get the details, it takes you over to the ripple.com website, June 25th, 2025, introducing the permission DEX on the XRP Ledger. And I mean, we could thoroughly go through and read what this offers and what features this brings. And it's pretty massive. If you haven't read it before, you should, but this is not a freaking coincidence because right down here, look at what name it uses, bro. Alice. A trader in Bob's jurisdiction holds a valid credential and only places permission offers. They could have chose any freaking name.
Any name, bro. Any name. And I'll even say this, just thinking about this logically, you can't tell me that Ripple's not aware of this BIS document that you just shared, bro. You can't tell me that they're not aware of it. They're fully aware of it.
They're in it with Peersist.
Oh my God. This is major. For this, like any naysayer at this point, if you just observe this, I don't even know what to say. Like, oh man.
You know, you got David Schwartz sitting on stage talking about not cross-border payments, not remittances, none of that stuff. Talk about institutional DeFi, baby. And, you know, this is just crazy that our speculation was turned into a confirmation through Ripple. I mean, they didn't openly come out and say, hey, guys, we know that you're catching on to us talking about Alice and how when you plug Alice into Sacred Gematria, it comes up with XRP, XLM, XDC. But bro, the fact that they chose that name in a recent article that they posted, come on now. Somebody had to type this out and know what name they were using. This wasn't random.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. Follow the white rabbit. Follow the white rabbit, like the Matrix.
Follow the
right?
white. I mean, dude, the fact even too that XRPL Commons posted that, you know, they could have said any name.
Any name.
Is wild to me, man. It's so wild. And, you know, I try not to pay attention to that stuff, but that was just really good. And, you know, it just, I got excited when they posted that. I was like, dang, I got to call Aqua and show it this.
Yeah, bro. This is major right here, bro.
You know, and then we got Uphold here. I won't talk too much in detail about this, but, you know, Uphold with the whole entire thing, the situation that was just announced the other day, this Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to begin considering cryptocurrency as an asset and mortgage risk assessments without converting to USD. Shout out to Echo for posting this. This is his post. He said, this is massive. We're talking about the two giants that hold over $7 trillion, dollars in housing loans, now prepping to allow digital assets as a reserve for single family loans. You will soon be able to use your crypto stacks as part of your home loan qualifications. No more sell to qualify. No more crypto doesn't count. This opens the floodgate for true adoption and marks the beginning of tokenized housing backed by the U.S. mortgage system. This isn't speculation. This isn't hopium. This is policy, and it's effective immediately. Yeah, we're on to something here, man. I'm telling you. You heard Sergey.
100%, man. Man, shout out to Echo. This is an amazing post. I didn't even see this one from him.
So we'll kind of transition there. That was the wrap up for the XRPL. David Schwartz talking about, you know, fractional ownership. That kind of bounced off of our first intro to the video breakdown where the gentleman Edward was talking about the same thing. And we kind of specifically dug and peeled back the curtains to show you guys that we're headed into this digitally native future where you're going to want to remain liquid. You're going to want to remain in crypto, not financial advice, but considering that everything is coming on chain, everything is going digitally native. We heard somebody say on this call today that stocks are coming on chain, real estate's coming on chain, debt's coming on chain, everything's coming on chain. Why would you want to fixate your mindset on this idea that exiting this digitally native ecosystem is the road to success when in reality it's the opposite? You want to figure out an effective and efficient way to stay liquid, to build your cash flow, and to generate income with your assets in this new future, right? Constant, like the gentleman Edward said at the beginning, creating a water flow. What did he say? A waterfall of liquidity consistently? He said something like that.
Yeah, a water flow or waterfall.
A waterfall. Yeah, he said waterfall. So real fast, we'll take an intermission. Just give a shout out to everybody that's on the call today. We got almost 1,200 people listening in. So we do appreciate the love and support. You know, obviously, of course, nothing that we talk about here is financial advice. If anybody is interested in, you know, tapping into our private CYPRX community where we share all this detailed research in the private Discord, head over to CYPRXtrading.com. You guys can see it at the top of the banner up there. We'd love to have you on the team. No hopium, no hype, just institutional backed research by some of the largest organizations in the game. You guys also get access to institutional delta zones, some of the most accurate, if not the most accurate institutional levels on the face of the retail space right now, along with access to dark pool information via our institutional scalper. Definitely tap in with us. You guys get so much value in the Discord. And if none of that floats your boat and you want to learn about DeFi in detail, you can also head over to CYPRXtrading.com. You can tap into our Wealth 28 Club. We'd love to have you. You guys can tap into all of the video breakdowns that we've recorded going over our trials and tribulations in DeFi, what we've learned, what we've experienced, our community calls, protocols that we've involved ourselves on, trials and tribulations that we've come across, linking different wallets, connecting to different blockchains, testing out different assets, seeing how different things work for us, all exposing our hard-earned capital, showing you guys strategies that work so that way you guys can learn. None of it's financial advice, but again, visual, you know, seeing people do something instead of you going out there and making the mistake yourself because you don't know is so much better, in my personal opinion, and it just fast tracks your education. So definitely tap in with us. And then outside of that, if you guys want free information, myself and Aqua, we're constantly on social media posting good, valuable stuff. Aqua's got Twitter, YouTube, and X. Make sure you go give him a follow. I myself am on X and YouTube. So make sure that if you guys just want the free stuff, go tap in as well. You can still learn so much valuable information.